Pittsburgh.
I was wondering how I was going to get up there. Getting old ain't for sissies, I'll tell you that much. I'm an addict named Kathy. And then to add to it that Tommy took a spill off the back of the stage. So now I'm absolutely sure that's going to happen to me as well. So you got me? Yeah, so there's a recorder back here that I'm going to trust that she got me if I fall. And very similar to what happened to me when I came to Narcotics Anonymous. When I came in 1988 was that I trusted that if I would fall, you'll pick me up. And you have never failed me ever since. So I want to give you a thanks for that. It's very similar to the theme, Never Alone, Never Again. That there's one thing I'm always sure. Did I say I'm an addict named Kathy? Yeah. Okay, I better remind myself of that. I'm an addict named Kathy. I can't remind myself enough of that. And I'm an addict first. I remember that first. Because I tend to forget that sometimes and think that I might actually be normal. And I'm always reminded when that happens of just how really critically ill I can get. And without a moment's notice. I want to thank the committee and everyone for inviting me. I love Arizona. I just love you guys. You guys are just so I don't know, just very down to earth with no frills. I'm very grateful that there's a lot of predecessors here. I can't say enough how much I appreciate the predecessors, the people that kept the door open for me. I originally came here in 1986. It was a nudge from a judge. I had just finished doing a 4-year sentence in the penitentiary, and I was sort of in a CCC center that mandated me to go to meetings, any fellowship. I could qualify for a lot of fellowships. I'm very plagued with a lot of the symptoms of addiction. And I went to any fellowship because when I was in the penitentiary, I learned that I had just a drug problem. Went to a lot of therapy, a lot of classes, and I was taught that I had problems with drugs. So when I came out of the penitentiary, I thought that I hadn't used drugs for about a year, and I didn't think that I really needed a 12-step. You know what's funny? I was actually in the penitentiary, and they were talking about bringing 12-step programs into the penitentiary and about H&I coming in, and I remember saying, why would you have them do that? That's for people that are out in the free world. What would we need that in here for? You know what I mean? Why would you do that? I couldn't grasp the depth of the plague of this disease. I couldn't grasp that. And really, if I would have even had a notion that there was something much more of a problem with me than just drugs, I don't even know that I would have been able to handle the work that needed to be done. And so when I came to Narcotics Anonymous, I look at all the differences. You said alcohol was a drug. I said it was a refreshment. You said if you ain't praying, you ain't staying. I said I'm not getting into any cult. You said don't get into a relationship for your first year. And I insisted the women were haters and they were just trying to keep me from their men. But I'm saying that when the literature warns us to look for the similarities and not the differences, and it says that reservations will rob us of the benefits this program has to offer. I didn't know they were reservations. I didn't know that when you said something to me and I said, yeah, that's some bullshit, I'm not doing that, that's crazy, you know what I mean? They're too serious, they're too rigid, that's ridiculous, that it was a reservation. I didn't know that. I didn't know that when I closed my mind to any ideas of you sharing, that I wasn't giving myself the opportunity to recover. And so as a result, and I didn't know that I had a disease that always tries to separate me from people. I had no idea what was going on, and so I didn't stay. I picked up alcohol first to take the edge off, and before I knew it, I was full-blown again, and within, it didn't take me long, about 6 months or so, I crawled back into the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. And I crawled back in, I was totally infested with infection. I had bandages all over me. I always say my oldest daughter would call me Mummy because I was always dressed in gauze. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just always had gauze all over me. And I crawled back into the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm laughing because I'm looking at these two up here, and because when I crawled back in, I said I was strung out like a research monkey. That used to be one of the phrases we would use. In Pittsburgh, we would say that. Oh, shit, they just rolled in, strung out like a research monkey, right? And the funny part was that I was sitting one day, and I used to identify like that, and I was sitting one day watching a program, and they were showing these research monkeys that were getting strung out on heroin. And they were literally forcibly stringing them out on heroin and then letting them go through withdrawal without anything. And these monkeys were suffering in these cages, balled up, suffering, right? But they go through the withdrawal, and they go to the other side of the withdrawal, and here comes the guy. Now the lab guy's coming back, and he's coming back with a syringe of heroin. This is after the monkey goes through the withdrawal. And whenever he was whenever the guy would come, the monkey would throw its arm out the cage. Would just throw its arm out the cage. But then after it went through the withdrawal, and the lab guy comes in, and the monkey sees him coming. He sees him coming, and the guy approaches the cage. The monkey backs up. The monkey literally backed up away from the guy like, oh no, hell no, we're not doing that again. Me, on the other hand, will be what if only, and just one more time, right? So it just meant I stopped identifying as strung out like a research monkey because the monkey had more sense than I do. It's a very humbling experience when you're sitting there watching TV and you come to the realization that I don't have the sense of a monkey. And that gets me in tune with and in touch with the severity of my affliction. That gets me in touch with that. That gets me in touch with no matter what. So I crawled back into these rooms in 1988. And I had not only now violated my parole, but I had 5 other charges pending. My dad had 5 bonds on me. One was a 10,000 straight bond. I remember him standing in the kitchen I was trying to get cop money off of him. And he held up the 5 bonds and he said, "What is wrong with you? Look at this, I have 5 bonds on you." And I remember saying to him, and this was without any any concern whatsoever, I said, "What is wrong with me? You're going to get your money back. What is your problem? Like, they're bonds. Like, I'll make it to court. You'll get your money back. No harm, no foul. What's the problem?" I had no idea my impact on others. There was no genuine concern for others. There were no consideration. I had no empathy. There was no compassion. I had lost my ability to even identify, everybody was, you don't understand what I'm going through, right? I don't know why you keep, I remember I got sentenced in court to a 4-year sentence in the penitentiary. And my mother, who had my daughter, was in the back of the courtroom, and my mother gasped so loud that everybody in the courtroom heard it and turned and looked at her. And I remember standing up there, and I turned and I looked at her, and I was like, what is your problem? I'm going to jail. Like, what are you gasping about? Right? I couldn't even consider what the impact of what I was doing to her, to my daughter. I remember telling my mother, you have to take her. I didn't lose my daughter. I gave her away. I gave her away because I couldn't keep her safe, because I couldn't keep myself safe. And I knew that she had to go. And yet I still said, here, Mom, you got to take her because I can't keep her safe. Knowing that the very person that I had written about in my fourth step as the terrorist, this was my identification with my mother, the terrorist, was now going to be the one that was taking my daughter. Because this is what addiction had done to me. This is the lengths it takes me to. This is the desperation. So when I crawled back into the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, I would stay in the back. I would stay close to the door. It was like the stench that came off me from flesh that was burnt. It's like a Skynyrd song that I was like, ooh, that smell. Can't you smell that smell? It's the smell of death around us, right? It was the smell of death. And that was the outside. The inside smelled worse. This was just what was coming out from the outside. And I would stay in the back, and I would stay near the door, and I would try to avoid contact. I couldn't handle a hug. Please don't even approach me. I would avoid it at all costs. And the reason I would avoid a hug was because I knew I swallowed a lot of years of tears. I knew there was a lot of pain in me. And I was afraid that if somebody just held me unconditionally, just held me, and that I would literally start crying years of tears. I don't even know how many years of tears I had swallowed. I know there was every time I compromised a value or a moral, every time I crossed a never line, where I swore I would never do this. If I ever got this bad, I won't do that. Even relinquishing my daughter if I ever lose my child, seriously, what's it going to take for you to stop? What's going to happen where you can finally just stop? How low are you going to go? How bad are you going to get? Until I bought into the lie. I bought into the lie that once an addict, always an addict. I figure this is what happened. Jails, institutions, dereliction, and death. This is how we go. Don't even cry about it. Might just woman up. Just woman up. Swallow them tears, girl. Just swallow them. And when I came here, and I remember the first time I got a hug, we had made a circle, and a woman came across the circle. She had saw me. I used to keep my head down. My hair, I couldn't even comb my hair. I was so sick. My arms were like lead weights. I couldn't even get them up there to comb my hair. I was afraid. I would look at the floor because I was afraid to make eye contact with someone. I didn't know what to do with that. I was so used to making propositions and business transactions with people that I didn't know how, an intimate moment was way too much for me. So if I made eye contact with you and you made eye contact with me, now I don't know what to do with that. Do I smile at you? And if I smile at you, do you think I want you? And if you smile at me, you want me. I know you want me. But everything is just so, seriously complicated. It's just so scary. It's just so scary. It's all very scary. And I couldn't, and I'm not using drugs, so I'm not numb anymore. Now here comes all this volcanic rush of emotions and feelings. They're coming out of everywhere. So here comes this woman. She gives me a hug, and she's an embracer. She's not like the tap and roll lady, you'd love her. The tap and roll where you really don't hug. I don't know what that is. What is that? I don't know. But we're embracers for a reason. we hold each other for a reason, because it's similar. What the theme is, it's never alone, never again. We let each other know we're not alone. We let each other know that, you know what I mean, that we identify with each other. We're not afraid of each other's pain. We're not repulsed by one another. That we genuinely understand each other and care about each other. That you know, your life is dependent on my life. We're like, you know what I mean? We rise together and we fall together. It's what we do. It's the way we live. It's why we share experience, strength, and hope. And so she helped me. And the biggest thing was the whole tear thing. And she whispered in my ear, you don't have to live like that anymore. And she's holding me. And so she's not going to let me just leave. But I can feel it. It's coming. I can feel it. The knot in my throat's coming up. This is the ball of tears coming up my throat. And I'm trying to swallow it. I'm trying to swallow it because it's too much. Because it can't. Because what if this comes up, and then what if I fall apart? And what if I just I turn into a puddle or something? I don't, you know what I mean? Like, please, don't let me fall apart in front of everybody, please. And I remember her saying it like she was sure of it. Like, how could she be so sure of it? But she said, you don't have to live like that anymore. And something happened. I got a flip in my stomach. I felt this rush happen, like this tingling thing happen. I couldn't for the life of me. Like, the only time I ever got that is when I took a hit of something, where the stomach flipped and you got and somehow I would get that feeling, and somehow what would come over me is a sense of well-being. There would be this rush that would say, everything's okay now, right? But this is different. It's the same kind of feeling. And how is it that she's doing this to me without me taking something? What is that? And I wasn't sure, am I gay? I wasn't sure what was going on. I didn't know what was happening. All I knew was something was happening inside me. That I didn't know what a spiritual awakening was. I had no idea that there was something awakening within me. And I didn't know that she had given me hope. Like, I didn't know what hope even was. I didn't know what hope felt like for the longest time. I was talking to somebody earlier about, I remember a guy sharing in a meeting, if what you believe doesn't make a difference in your life, it was talking about the second step, then it doesn't make a difference what you believe. I said, what did he just say? Because I felt like he spun me. If what you believe doesn't make a difference in your life, then it doesn't make a difference what you believe. And he was saying to me, you can believe whatever you want to believe. The second step is beautiful like that. You can believe whatever you want. Nobody's going to tell you what to believe. Nobody can tell you what you believe is wrong. But ask yourself, if what I believe is working for me or against me, is it helping me or hurting me? Because if it's working against me and it's hurting me, then it doesn't make a difference what I believe, because it's not making any difference. It's not helping me at all. And I started to really take a look at that. I'm like, wait a minute. What do I believe? Like, I really thought it was cool when the second step was kind of warning me, some of us go over this step with a minimum of concern. Only you find out what the rest of the steps don't work. Why is my belief so important? Why is it so, look, I did a whole thing during the pandemic. I did this whole thing on spiritual principles. I did a whole spiritual principle work. Tons of work. Took me 2 years to do this whole thing. But as I was writing about it, and I was talking to my sponsor, and I said, something's happening here. And I started writing about principles, and I started writing about how I apply them. But then I started writing about, I said to my sponsor, it says having had a spiritual awakening. Right? So are you telling me, by definitions and stuff, are you telling me that you're waking something up inside of me? Are you telling me that this isn't something I have to learn? If this isn't something that I have to acquire? Is this something that needs to be taught to me? You're telling me that there's something in me that I have to wake up. so that it's already a part of me. It's not something outside, like something. And I was like, well, that's cool. I said to my sponsor, that's cool. I like to wake up. I always like to wake up, right? I like to wake up. But I want to know, how did I get to sleep in the first place? That's what I want to know. Like, I like getting out of the grip of the disease of addiction. I like that. I like that, through principles, I can get out of the grip. But I am a proactive kind of girl. I would like to know how not to get in it, is what I would like to know. How can this thing keeps getting on me, and then I wind up all jacked up? Look, I did so many years of step, tradition, concepts. I did the living clean. I don't have a problem with doing the work. But I'm shallow when I do work a lot of times. I answer the questions, just to answer the questions, to be done with it. But not really, like I spent years doing step work where I focused on the first step and I focused on being powerless and unmanageable. And on 2, I focused on the insanity. 3, I focused on self-will. 4, I locked into 4 was good because I locked into these useless patterns and endless loops. I locked into that. I locked into the exact nature of 5, the defects, and 6, shortcomings, and 7s, right? The harm, the devastation of the damage done, the wrong. And I focused on the problems. And I connected to the brokenness in me. And I lived my life for many years connected to the brokenness instead of focusing on the principles. And as a result, I stayed around for many years connecting to identification with others rather than restoration. And I had to do a lot of work in order to become more acquainted with the restoration process in recovery. And so some of the stuff that started out, look, I remember when I first got clean, a guy saying to me, I said, this is just very strange to me. I'm having a really hard time with what you people are saying to do. It sounds very dangerous. This shit sounds dangerous. You talk about being honest, surrendering, having hope, right? Trusting, having faith. Like this is a way of life that is not, no, that just sounds a little too risky for me, right? And he said, Kath, can you just do the right thing? Why don't you just do the right thing? And I said to him, I've been doing wrong for so long, I don't know what right is. Like, I don't know what happened to me, but I don't know what right is. So when I started writing about these principles, I started getting exposed to why I have so much trouble with principles. And it isn't just like, I always thought if the drugs don't kill you, the lifestyle will, as the hustle and flow. Sort of like the hustle and flow. I didn't really pay attention to if the drugs don't kill you, the defects will. It's like it took on a whole new meaning to me as I really started doing these principles. It's the defects that'll kill me. It's, not to talk about shortcomings, but it's that old belief system that'll kill me. Like I started to get exposed to, so like whenever I was little, you know how it says some of us believe this disease was present long before we started using drugs. I still don't like people walking behind me. What is that? What is that? What's she doing? I'm like, seriously, where does that shit come from? Like, I don't, but that's the kind of stuff that, so I started writing about when I was a little girl and why I have trouble with these principles. And I did this with each principle. So one of the things that happened to me when I was a little girl, and this is part of why hope was so foreign to me, was because I believed as a little girl that hope, I concluded this that hope was causing me disappointment. And so the way to solve that was don't hope. That was my answer to that. So stop hoping and you won't get disappointed. Now, I had no idea. Look, I'm just trying to protect myself here. This is a little girl trying to do the best she can to sort through stuff and try to protect herself. I don't beat myself up for this. I'm not very condemning of myself. I'm very compassionate with the fact that I tried to do the best I could and that I almost killed myself in the process of doing that. But as a little girl, I told myself, stop hoping and you won't be disappointed. Now, I did not know that stopping to hope actually is despair. Just by definition, despair is the absence of hope. So I had no idea that I'm buying into despair. I just know that I think I'm doing something to protect myself. So one of the other things was that I believed that I cared too much, and if I kept caring so much, it was going to kill me. It was very painful to care so much. Why is my dad this way? My mother's doing this. Nobody seems to care. My fourth step, I used to hide in the closet when I was a little girl and wait for somebody to find me. I would wait for could you just look for me even? Could you just call out my name even? I'm going to sit in the closet and wait for you to recognize that I'm gone. And nobody would call. And nobody would come, and nobody would notice. And each time that happened, I came out of the closet, leaving a piece of me in there. And I did this many times over and over and over again. Like, I understand the fracturedness that takes place with me. I understand that. So I told myself, after so many times of coming out of the closet, that if you don't care, you won't get hurt. Like, I'm living my life already as a young child, trying to find ways to not get hurt, trying to protect myself from getting hurt. I didn't know that if I don't care, that's apathy. I didn't know that. I don't know that I'm buying into defects. I have no idea that this is happening. It seems like it's a good plan to help myself. I remember being little and saying, so anytime something would happen where I would get my feelings hurt, I was a very sensitive child. I cried all the time. I remember my mother grabbing me by the shoulders. I was young. And she said to me, you have to stop crying all the time. You better learn to fight or they're going to eat you up alive out there. And so I started fighting in my teens. And that's whenever my whole thing of fear, because I was scared all the time as a little girl. I was always scared. That's why my mother was known as the terrorist. I was always scared. Always walking on eggshells, always waiting for my mother to become very explosive at any moment. And never know why she would become explosive, but I know it's going to happen. And I don't know what I'm going to do that's going to cause it, but it's going to be my fault, I'm sure. And so I went from that to getting very angry and fighting all the time. And so when I'm fighting all the time, like, I don't even know that I'm stepping into the triangle of self-obsession. I don't even know this, right? I don't know it. I think fighting's better than being scared. I prefer anger over fear. I prefer that for many years over and over again rather than being scared. And so here comes this thing with being little and not being able to do anything about it because I have to keep my mouth shut because I'm too little to fight the adults. But I would say to myself, you wait till I get big enough and I'm going to make you pay for everything you ever did to me. I'm going to make you pay. Now, I have no idea that is called resentment. I don't know that's called resentment. I know that I am now on a mission to collect everything that anyone that has ever harmed me, whatever you have done, I'm going to keep track of it. I'm going to keep it on file because I need to remember all that you did or said or didn't do or didn't say. It doesn't matter. You're losing no matter what you do. I'm going to keep track of all this stuff. So when opportunity presents itself, I am going to pay you back to make, and I think here's the really sad part about resentments, is I think that when the opportunity comes and I pay you back, that I am somehow going to give you back the pain. That I am going to take it off of me and give it back to you. And then that will kind of relieve me of the pain. Now, I have no idea that that's the very thing that leads me into the triangle of self-obsession and the very thing that causes me self-rejection. I don't know that if I don't own my own pain, I'll never be able to heal it. I'm too busy trying to give it back to whoever started it in the first place. I'm too busy. It's exhausting to try to keep track of all the harm, all the hurt, all the pain, everything. So I'm exhausted. But I'm saying these things are starting to get exposed to me because I'm starting to realize that I'm making decisions to live my life long before the drugs, to live my life according to defects of character. That I am befriending defects. Like, I understand why when the sixth step talks about there's a distorted sense of comfort in familiar pain. What do they talk? Why does the literature say that? Because I befriended these defects a long time ago. And I thought they were protecting me because I was trying to survive. And these are the kind of things that I started getting exposed to. And here's what I started to realize, that if I focused on the principles, the defects seemed to kind of lose their juice. Not that I was doing great with them, but the effort that I was putting forth was shifting me into a direction of solution rather than continuously trying to live by survival tactics. Now I'm trying to live by something that's actually offering me some healing, offering me some relief, giving me some peace, helping me to get a sense of well-being. So I live in the neighborhood where I grew up. So this whole thing happens with my mother. My plan is, I love when I have a plan. My plan with my honey was that we were going to retire. We were pretty close to being retired, around the same time. We were going to buy a condo in Florida. We were going to move to Florida. He was going to golf and I was going to swim, and life was going to be happily ever after. It was going to be fabulous, right? I spent most of my first step in surrendering when I found out. So I have a definition of surrender that says deliberately letting go of my attachment to a specific outcome. Right? That's my surrender. Deliberately letting go of my attachment to a specific outcome. That I always have this specific outcome that is going to make me happy. This specific outcome that then I'll be secure. This specific outcome will then I'll be comfortable. Or I'll be there's always an outcome of some kind that I'm waiting for this to happen to be something. And so if I'm letting that go, hope gets a chance to come in. Hope that says, can you possibly, now that you're not all attached to these outcomes that you want, can you possibly believe in that there's a possibility of a favorable outcome now? Can you believe if you let go that there's a good chance that something good might happen instead of you always trying to make things happen the way you want them to? So my plan was go to Florida, retire. And then my mother decided to live. And so my mother, who's now 90, and my disease is so on her. Seriously, it's like she's the original problem. You know what I mean? She's the one that made it all start to happen, right? So every opportunity it gets, the disease will jump on my mother. And so So I'm ready to do the retirement thing, and, we're good to go. But my mother's living, and I'm an only child, and so I'm all she has. And I don't believe that my children are responsible for my mother. I don't, I'm responsible for my mother. And so I make the decision, just because it doesn't set well with me, to leave her. Not because I'm this wonderful person, believe me. It's not because of that. I try to be a good person, but it's more so because I would feel more guilt and shame if I left, that it was more important to me that I be there for her. Because I had to do a lot of work on 8 and 9 and letting go of some of the resentments I had with her. I really had to lean into a forgiveness with her. And I did that through seeking understanding and realizing when I talked to my mother that she was raised in a family where her father was alcoholic, and she had to go to the bars a lot of times and carry her father home. And that there was a lot of times she had to go into alleys and get him, and off of the curb and get him, and the shame that came down on that, and how the family just, she was never held. She was never told she was loved. She said the only time she remembered ever being held was when she was sick one time, and my grandmother rocked her to try to ease her pain, but nobody ever took the time. It's really hard to have a resentment with someone that was really not treated well. It's hard to hold them accountable for something when they didn't have it to give in the first place. Forgiveness just kind of comes. It isn't like I was looking for that to happen. It just kind of came through empathy and compassion. The forgiveness just kind of followed suit. Because I sought what you told me to do, understanding rather than being understood. It wasn't so much about, well, what about me and what did you do to me and all this other stuff, because once I really got in touch with the fact that I'm responsible for my pain and my mother's not responsible for that anymore, I'm not a victim now, I'm a volunteer. And that if I keep blaming others for my pain, I'm rejecting myself. And that I can't hold you accountable for everything that's happened to me. That there comes a time where I just had to really where I just had to go in the closet and get the little girl. Where I had to go in there and say, you can come out of there now, Like seriously, how significant, you don't have to live like that anymore, it really is. Where I'm able to embrace her, I'm not afraid of her anymore. That 4-step stuff where I used to be, whenever you were sharing about, you got to have courage, because that's what the 4-step is about. It's about having courage. I know what my experience has been with the steps is that if I ever have trouble with any one step, it's because I didn't get the principle from the step before that I needed. So a lot of times my problem with 4 was I didn't have the courage because I didn't get the faith I needed in 3. If I have the faith, I'm good. But if I don't have it, then I got to go back. I really need to go back. And I had a really hard time several years with 8. 8 was a very hard step for me. But I realized it was hard for me because I didn't get what I needed from 7, which was humility. And until I got, even it says it when you're coming out the gate, and 8 says, the first line says, this is a test of our newfound humility. I'm like, shit. I know I'm in trouble. I know I'm in trouble because I remember saying to my sponsor immediately, I'm not going to be held accountable for all this harm. Some of these people are self-centered and they're easily hurt and they're oversensitive and they take shit personal, and I'm not going to be responsible for all their pain. And I remember her saying to me, well, don't put them on the list. If you don't feel like you did anything wrong, don't put them on the list. But what happens with empathy and compassion, what I learned in the 8th step was a genuine concern for others. I learned that principle, concern, in the 8th step. And it's funny because I was talking to someone earlier today about, I've been through the steps numerous times, but how we can both go through the steps together. And then you can say, like I had a friend of mine, she says, she gets integrity from the 10th step. And this other guy I was talking, he said he gets discipline from the 8th step. And I said, no, I get vigilance from the 8th step. And the thing was that, it's easy to go, it's this because of this, it's that because blah, blah, blah. But when we really lean into diversity as our strength, I started to realize that we're all broken in different ways, and we all need different principles based on how we're broken. And some of us are extremely broken, and so I had to work really hard just to get some basic things going before I could build upon other ones. And it took me a long time to really develop into a kind of person I want to be. Like that fundamental transformation that is talked about in the literature isn't just talking about what I do, it's talking about who I become, who I am, where there isn't anything like, where I'm just behaving a certain kind of way, but that I believe it to my core that this is who I want to be. And I'm no longer doubting, like this is some chump move, this is some bullshit, you know what I mean? Like this is, I'm not going to do this because I'm going to look weak, because the ego's no longer running my life, because that's what the disease uses to run my life. That things are no longer personal, they're becoming purposeful. That I'm learning to be for me instead of against me. That I'm the one that's actually working in my favor because I'm in the favor of a loving, caring power. Because that alignment is starting to take place. Because I really want, for anyone that's new, my biggest problem when I came to Narcotics Anonymous was I had no purpose in life. Life had no meaning for me. That was my hole. That was my emptiness. I can say that there was a bunch of other things that were missing that weren't in there, but the fact of the matter was I had no meaning and life had no purpose. I say, even as a little girl, I wondered, why am I here? What point is, what am I doing here? How do I, make a difference? Until I came to Narcotics Anonymous and found a purpose and found that life had me. Look, it's a beautiful thing. Whenever I finally came to terms with, I remember a guy used to come up and he would introduce himself and he would say, I want to thank God for everything. And I would be like, are you serious? Everything? Like everything. Now, I'm talking about some dereliction stuff. I'm talking about the rapes, and I'm talking about the assaults, and guns in my faces, and being held hostage, and being kidnapped, and being incarcerated, and degraded, and humiliated. Look, I'm talking about the times that I didn't just do a dirty deed for a hit, but did a dirty deed in hope of a hit. I'm talking about that desperation, that dereliction, that degradation, that humiliation, where I lost myself, where I didn't have any value. My worth was gone. I had no value. And Narcotics Anonymous brought that back to me. So I live in the neighborhood where I grew up. And I had this thing where I would never go down the street where I used to live. It wasn't a main street. I had to go down a couple times if there was a detour, but when I would ride down there, I could see the apartment where I used to live. And from the street, you can see all the windows of the house, and each window has a room. And so each room had a painful experience in them. And so when I would ride past there and I would look up at the windows, I would feel the pain of each one of those experiences that would happen in each one of those rooms. So my answer to that dilemma is, don't go down that street. Right? Avoidance is my thing. Avoid it at all costs. I even remember when my sponsor said it's time to do this 4-step, and I said, look, I barely got out of there alive. Why would I go back in there and revisit that hell all over again? I don't understand the point of that. Like, why would I rehash all that stuff after I just barely like made some sort of like escape from it. And she said to me, because you have pieces of you all over the place. You've left pieces of you everywhere. She said, even when you share with people, because I would say, I share openly, I ain't scared to share. I would just like share. She said, but you tell people things you think they'll accept. If you know they won't like accept certain things, you won't tell them those things, because you're not going to take a chance of getting rejected. You're not going to take a chance of them like abandoning you. And you just give you little pieces all over the place. She said, now the time has come where you got to put all you on the table. I want you to bring all your pieces. Because if you don't bring all your pieces, we can't piece you back together. And so that made sense to me. That part made sense to me, because when I would ride down that street and I would look in those windows, I knew I had pieces in there. When something disturbs me and disrupts me, it's because there's pieces in there that want reconciled. They want, look, I remember looking up acceptance, and acceptance said it comes from the Latin to make peace with, to rest in. And I used to hate acceptance because I felt like you had to force feed me some bullshit, and I had to swallow it. And so acceptance wasn't my friend. Until I saw that acceptance was to actually make peace with something. So whenever you say to me like you're fractured, your personality's fractured, and it says self-acceptance is the key, then you want me to make peace with myself. And the only way to make peace with myself is to bring all of me to the table. So I stopped going down the street and I started doing these principles. And I started working on how can I practice these principles. And I tried to do like a week of practicing certain principles just to try to be better at it. Here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to unfriend the defects and befriend the principles. Now, these principles are foreign to me because I have not lived by them for a very long time. Even though they were instilled in me from when I was little, because I did believe in them at one time, I stopped believing in them. And I started believing in these other ways of living to protect myself. So decades of time have been invested in befriending these defects. And they will try to come back and tell me that I'm your friend. I can protect you. You know what I mean? This situation requires my action. These principles don't work. That's a disease plan within me. Try to prove the principles don't work and that God is not for me. That's the whole doubt it's trying to create within me. So now whenever there's a detour and I have to ride down the street, I have to go down the street where I used to live. I know, so I tell myself, don't look at those windows. Whatever you do, just look at the street, just like when I first came into Narcotics, look at the floor. Don't look at anybody, just look at the floor. So I go down the street, but something in me wants to look at those windows. There's just something that says, look at the window. And I look up at the window, and the one window is the living room. A lot of damage done in the living room. But all of a sudden, when I look up at the living room, I get a thought, and a memory comes of me in the living room with a girlfriend of mine eating cheeseburgers, playing the turntable. My mother made the cheeseburgers for us, and we're dancing in the living room. And it hit me, oh my goodness, I had a moment where I remembered something good. And then it hit me, is it possible that trying to really practice these principles can actually bring out of me the good stuff instead of always the bad stuff? And is it possible that practicing these principles can actually balance me out so that I'm not all the way over here or all the way over there anymore? Like whenever Recovery and Relapse says that an addict, it says who by any means, can stop using, and then it starts to talk about, and find free choice over impulsive thinking and compulsive action. What? Free choice over impulsive thinking and compulsive action has reached a turning point that could be a decisive factor in his recovery. It says the true feeling of independence and freedom hangs here at times in the balance. I was like, when did they put that in there? Because I don't hear that until I'm experiencing that. Until I realize that they're talking about a whole nother level of freedom there. That there was something there the whole time trying to tell me, don't sell yourself short. Don't settle for less. Like whenever I was working as a counselor, and my daughter, oldest daughter's a nurse, and she said to me, what did you want to be when you were little? And I said, I wanted to be a nurse. But I live vicariously through you because I have all these felony convictions and I can't be a nurse. And she says to me, well, don't you say like God can do anything and God can open doors and, you know, if God is for you, who, like, you know, she, well, come on. Like, or do you just say that? I'm like, this little bitch. Like, seriously. Like, she's going to question my recovery? Like, what? But, you know what I mean? If I really take a look at a 7-step, if I really try to take a look at an 11-step, am I selling myself short? Am I settling for less? Am I saying that it's good is good enough? Is good the enemy of my best? Am I settling? Am I complacent? Possibly? Okay, fine. So I go and I decide to go to school. I go to school and I start doing the prerequisites. I ask the nursing program, if I do these prerequisites, will you let me in the nursing program? They say, do the prerequisites, we'll let you know. So then I say, I'm going to do they let me in the nursing program. I get told to the state, if I do this program, will you give me a nursing license? They say it's to our discretion, do the program, we'll let you know. Right? I don't like that answer. Because I don't want to do all this work for what? Nothing? In the end, to get nothing? But here's what I realize. I realize that within me there's a little girl who had dreams. And that I told her those dreams weren't possible. Even in recovery, I told her that. And that if I don't believe enough in myself to prove to her that she's worth her dreams, if I don't put forth the effort to at least try, I believe God honors effort. So I'm going to believe that effort of mine is also going to be honored. If I don't believe enough in myself to believe in my own dreams, then how am I having a relationship with myself? How am I being true to myself? How do I believe that I'm not good enough, that I'm not worthy, that I caused too much damage, that it's not possible? I didn't even ask for a pardon because I've committed felonies in so many jurisdictions, that federal, state, county, and city, that it would be like everybody would have to pardon me. And so I said, fuck it, I'm just going with the way I am. I'm going to just go as I am. If you're all that, God, then let's see. And so I moved forward. I did the nursing program. I went and I got to get my nursing license. And when I applied for my graduate nursing license, they called me up on the phone. And they said to me, excuse me, we just got an application for your graduate nursing license. You have a bunch of felony convictions. I said, yeah, I know. I told you that when I started. You said it was to your discretion. I'm counting on your discretion. She said, we can't give you a graduate nursing license. But if you take the nursing NCLEX exam and you pass that exam, we'll give you your registered nursing license. So I said, okay, fine. So I sign up for the exam. I take the exam and I pass the exam. I get a nursing license. Shut the fuck up, right? So now I'm sure, though, that, and here's the thing I had to remember, that whether I got the nursing license or not wasn't as important as the fact that I believed enough in myself to try. That I believed enough in myself to go after a dream. The important thing was that I believed in me enough to go for it. Whether I got it or not was, to me, God's will. My effort was to try. And so I go to get a job. I can't get a job anywhere because of all these felony convictions. And I remember saying to God, should I have asked for a job as a nurse? Because you sure gave me exactly what I asked for, right? I want to be a nurse. Well, you're a nurse. So I finally apply for all these nursing, and I'm like, God, please don't say psych. Please don't be like, yeah, okay, you got it, but psych. You're only getting this, you ain't getting that, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden I get a call, and I get hired as a psych nurse, right? And I remember the first day I'm on the unit, and the guy, I have an assignment. I finally have an assignment, and this guy's running down the hall. He's a big dude, too. He's running down the hall. Where's my nurse? Where's my nurse? And it dawns on me that I'm his nurse. But it doesn't just dawn on me that I'm his nurse. It dawns on me that I am a nurse. It became real in that moment. And in that moment, all those lost dreams awaken and new possibilities arise. All the times you shared about these wonderful things happening to you, and that I believed they could happen to you. But I wasn't so sure it would happen to me. That I do so much damage, that I cause so much harm to myself that I couldn't regroup after that. And it was happening to me. And I was standing in the hall as he's yelling, where's my nurse? I am now in the reality that I am a nurse, and I'm yelling, I'm your nurse! I'm me! Like we were so happy to find each other, you know what I mean? That I found a way to heal from the pain, that I found a way to be I found a way to be self-supporting. I found a way to be responsible. I found a way to comfort myself. I found a way to be for me instead of against me. I found a way to live my life so that I'll say that to myself all the time. You can believe whatever you want to believe, but is it working for you, Cav? Is it helping you? Can you get a better perspective? Just for today, can your thoughts be on your recovery? Can you actually have faith maybe and believe in someone that wants to believe in you? Can you do that? The just for today is no joke. It's actually a shift. It's asking me to shift from being so negative to being more positive. Can you balance yourself out? It's no longer do I have to be all this or all that. Either care too much or not at all. Can't you just care a little and realize it might not work out, but that's okay? You're just going to give it your best effort. Could you do that? Could you be your best you? Could you bring your best forward? Could you believe in yourself, right? Can you actually get a better perspective on your life? Can you do that? Okay. Can you have a program? Just follow it. Just follow it to the best of your ability. Don't give up on yourself. Stop selling yourself short. Stop settling for less. Let go of the perfectionism, the caretaking, the people-pleasing. Just bring you, just the way you are. Can you believe you're enough? Can you believe you're worthy? Can you believe you were created of love? Can you believe the program works for you? If you can do that, then as it says, so long as I follow that way, I have nothing to fear. I'm an addict named Kathy.